Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the HPR Chronicles. Before we started rolling today, we were just talking about the BS Trump tweeted, a couple of days ago. Today is Wednesday. About the Congresswomen. Mm-hmm. I think that's crazy. Tell them to go back where they came from.
When they from here.
And he's not even from here.
Yeah.
Or his family.
Or his family, yeah.
So in America, when you're talking about go back where you came from, mm-hmm. I mean, you're literally talking about yourself as well. You can't go back where you came from.
Correct.
And if you study your history, the Egyptians, which is one of the earliest civilizations, they actually have recorded history of coming here first before the Europeans. Mm-hmm. They passed through and left. You know what I'm saying? So it's just interesting, man. Anyway, guys, welcome to the HPR Chronicles. We were just talking about this stuff before the cameras roll, so just wanted to do put my 2 cents on it. It is the HPR Chronicles with Shakur and Smith. It's a podcast about history, politics, and race from a cool perspective. We're going to break it down simple and plain so that everybody can understand it. Mm-hmm. I'm a filmmaker from Trinidad and Tobago, and I've traveled a lot and have a love history and politics. Chris is a veteran of the Army Reserves that works for the VA, and he himself also has a passion for history. Hence, with Shakur and Smith. You know what I'm saying?
Not just one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about truth. We always like to say it's not pro any race, just pro truth. If the truth offends you, we're sorry.
Not
sorry is our slogan. You hear that every week. Just thank everybody on iTunes and Spotify and Google Play, Buzzsprout, Stitcher, just all the platforms that you guys listen to us on, and also on YouTube. Subscribe on ISCNT Group Digital if you want to watch these two handsome gents talk about these topics. So that's my usual spiel. Don't forget to follow us on social media. If you have any questions or comments, hit us up on email, rptalktruth@gmail.com, and all that will be in the description as well. It is July 17th, right, Crispy?
Yep.
And today we're going to,
happy birthday to my son, Javon. It was his birthday yesterday.
Oh, cool. Happy birthday, Javon. And we're going to do Today in History for July 17th. And, keep listening for that for the end of the show. So today my topic is systemic racism. And I've heard this topic a lot thrown around the past couple of years since I moved here to wine country. It wasn't thrown around as much years ago.
It was more after Trump.
Yeah, this systemic racism talk, man. Yeah. And, I think throughout the years you've heard what racism is and stuff like that, and I've always heard the systemic racism term, but just never really had a true understanding of it. So I did a little research last night and today, and I found a study by this gentleman. His name is Fegan. He's a sociologist, Joe Fegan. And he had a really good study on systemic racism.
Okay.
So I'm going to get into that. It's a few pages, and we can stop and discuss at any moment.
Okay.
Stop me at any moment to discuss.
I will.
And I'll do the same, but it's pretty interesting.
Okay.
And again, people that watch us, we always want to bring you facts, so we just bring you the info so that you can just listen to it.
Yeah.
And don't have to do the research that we've done. So let me get into it, man. Systemic racism. So this should clear it up for a lot of people who may have had misunderstandings about it, or it wasn't really clear what they mean when they say it on the news every day.
Okay.
Let me check my clock here so we don't bore you guys for 2 hours, maybe an hour instead. You know what I'm saying?
If it's a good, interesting 2 hours.
But it's a good, interesting 2 hours.
You got to do it.
So here we go. Systemic racism is both a theoretical concept and a reality. As a theory, it is premised on the research supported claim that the United States was founded as a racist society, that racism is thus embedded in all social institutions, structures, and social relations within our society. Rooted in a racist foundation, systemic racism today is composed of intersecting, overlapping, and codependent racist institutions, policies, practices, ideas, and behaviors that gave an unjust amount of resources, rights, and power to white people while denying them to people of color. So that's basically what it is. It's like a whole system of racism, which the word itself, I guess, systemic racism is kind of self-explanatory, but when you hear it said on all these political platforms on the news and stuff, you kind of get confused. Like, what do they mean exactly? Mean by it? Yeah. What do they mean exactly? So, so today we really going to get into it. And you guys, I know in that first paragraph I actually said a lot, but as I explain it, you guys will really get a true understanding of what systemic racism actually is and how it actually works, which is cool. And at the end of it, I have a great thing on some of the statistics too. That pertains to systemic racism and how systemic racism affected society in a whole in the United States as it pertains to people of color. Okay.
I think when a lot of people hear it, they automatically the word racism stands out. And then they're like, why are you talking about what system of it? Right. But if you are not affected, which we would call like white, the benefits of being white and stuff like that.
White privilege.
White privilege. So
you wouldn't know what it
is. You wouldn't understand.
And you won't be able to relate.
But
you'd be like, what are they talking about?
What system is all racist or whatever?
What are they talking about? So here we go. Definition of systemic racism. Developed by sociologist Joe Fegan, systemic racism is a popular way of explaining within the social science and humanities the significance of race and racism both historically and in today's world. Fegan describes the concept and the realities attached to it in his well-researched and readable book, Racist America, Roots, Current Realities, and Future Reparations. In it, Fegan uses historical evidence and demographic statistics to create a theory that asserts that the United States was founded in racism since the Constitution classified black people as a property of whites. Fegan illustrates that the legal recognition of racialized slavery is a cornerstone of a racist social system in which resources and rights were and are unjustly given to white people and unjustly denied to people of color. The theory of systemic racism accounts for individual, institutional, and structural forms of racism. The development of this theory was influenced by other scholars of race, including Frederick Douglass, W.E.B. Du Bois, Oliver Cox, Anna Julia Cooper, Kwame Ture, Franz Fanon, and Patricia Hill Collins, among others.
So, just going off of what you're saying, I mean, we've even sort of touched on some of these subjects with some of the other stuff. So, like the beginning of slavery and how even though when slavery ended, they still had a system to keep blacks suppressed.
To keep people of color suppressed.
Racism.
Yep. So Fegan defines systemic racism in the introduction to the book. So systemic racism includes the complex array of anti-black practices, the unjustly gained political economic power of whites, the continuing economic and other resources, inequalities along racial lines, and the white racist ideologies and attitudes created to maintain and rationalize white privilege and power. Systemic here means that the core racist realities are manifested in each society's major parts. Each major part of the U.S. society, the economy, politics, education, religion, the family, reflects the fundamental reality of systemic racism. While Fegan developed a theory based on the history and reality of anti-black racism in the U.S., it is usefully applied to understanding how racism functions generally both within the U.S. and around the world. That was actually the next thing I was about to say, because when we covered the apartheid in South Africa, it's the exact same thing they did.
Correct.
And are doing, exact same thing.
And, oh shoot, did I lose my train of thought?
Wrote it down. Which I don't have a pen today, guys. I got to ask Yoni to grab me a pen, maybe.
I got a pen.
Oh, you have one I can borrow too? Yeah. I usually try to have. I don't need one now, but yeah.
Yeah. So I guess what I was just going to interject.
Yeah.
And put out there is how it does relate to today's what's going on. Like even the tweet.
That Trump did a couple days ago. Yeah.
Saying that saying the black women or the women of color aren't American, aren't around.
Yeah, go back to where you
go
came
back to
from.
wherever you came from.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, so let me pick it up at the next section, the impoverishment of people of color and enrichment of white people. Fegan explains that the underdeserved impoverishment of people of color, which is the basis of the underdeserved enrichment of white people, is one of the core aspects of systemic racism. In the U.S., this includes the role that black slavery played in creating an unjust wealth for white people, their businesses and their families, which we talked about in the reparations podcast, how they benefited from the slavery economically and how we were disenfranchised economically because of slavery. Mm-hmm. So that's the point they're touching on there, guys. If you want to go back and listen to our podcast on reparations, we talked about that a lot. It also includes the way white people exploited labor throughout the European colonies prior to the founding of the United States. These historical practices created a social system that had racist economic inequality built into its foundation and was followed through the years in numerous ways, like the practice of redlining, which Kamala Harris just touched on the Breakfast Club the other day, and she got deep into it.
Yeah.
And she even explained how, because of that system of redlining that was implemented, how it created
and do you want to say what redlining
generational wealth. Yeah, I will. So what she explained is that how it enabled generational wealth for white people, mm-hmm. but it was a lack of generational wealth for us.
Correct.
How we were redlining was a practice that lenders made that drew a red line around certain neighborhoods. They wouldn't allow blacks to get mortgages and own homes and stuff like that.
Basically, real estate agents weren't allowed to show black minorities property, homes to buy in certain areas, and they would red line around that area and say, nope, no one's allowed.
No one's allowed. I mean, and what's funny is, I was going to do my podcast today on redlining, and I switched it to systemic racism. So I'm going to do it next. I'm going to do it the next show, because I have a lot of stuff I found about it, redlining. Because when I saw Kamala Harris talk about it, that's when I came with the idea, when I watched her interview last week.
Got it. And I know what I was going to say earlier, if I may go back to, so when he was, Joe Fegan, when he wrote about how it can, systemic racism, it's built to keep minorities down, suppressed, and to elevate. An example is that has also been fought recently, and I think it's been lost, is the censorship question on the census, and how the idea behind it, which if people would have looked or heard, it was a gentleman who specifically said, by putting the question out there, this will help whites, and it will actually, it will help males or non-whites, or no, it was, if we put the question on there, it will hurt non-whites and minorities, but it will help whites, and another term you used, but anyway, just the fact that it would give, and it would end up giving more power to white people because of how the lines would get drawn.
They would know exactly who was.
Yeah, but it also underrepresents certain areas because some people wouldn't complete
it,
and therefore money would not be allocated to certain areres, which again leads to poor education, possibly. So
that's why they want to do it. Yep.
And underrepresentation because you'd the amount. Yeah,
that's why they want to do it. It's crazy, man. Thanks for bringing that up, Chris. So like the practice of redlining that prevented people of color from buying homes that would allow their family wealth to grow while protecting and stewarding the family wealth of white people. Underdeserved impoverishment also resulted from people of color being forced into unfavorable mortgage rates, being channeled by unequal opportunities for education into low-wage jobs, and being paid less than white people for doing the same jobs. Mm-hmm. There's no more telling proof of the underdeserved impoverishment of people of color and the underdeserved enrichment of white people than the massive difference in average wealth of whites versus blacks and Latino families. Within a racist society, white people enjoy many privileges denied to people of color. Among these is the way that vested group interests among powerful whites and ordinary whites allow white people to benefit from a white racial identity without even identifying it as such, which we just kind of talked about. This manifests in support among white people for political candidates who are white and for laws and political and economic policies that work to reproduce a social system that is racist and has racist outcomes. For example, white people as a majority have historically opposed or eliminated diversity increasing programs within education and jobs and ethnic study courses that better represent the racial history and reality of the U.S. In cases like these, white people in power and ordinary white people have suggested that programs like these are hostile or examples of reverse racism, which is what they try to do. Boy, they got it set up slick, y'all.
They do.
They got it set up slick. In fact, the way white people wield political power in the protection of their interests and the expense of others, at the expense of others, without ever claiming to do so, maintains and reproduces a racist society. So let me read that line again. In fact, the way white people wield political power in the protection of their interests and at the expense of others without ever claiming to do so maintains and reproduces a racist society. So they real slick.
They real, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I remember hearing about Asian getting funded to combat or to fight, legally fight like some discrimination thing in a college. And it was interesting to know that the group backing him was more of a nationalist group. And their point was by having the court case potentially won by this Asian person, whatever, that it would end up ending the affirmative action type of programs. So it's interesting. My point in saying that is they'll use others to get to get their advantage if it allows them to take away programs and stuff like that.
Right.
So in other words, they'll use you.
Right. They'll use you. Yeah. Exactly. In the U.S., white people hold most positions of power. A look at the membership of Congress, the leadership of colleges and universities, and the top management corporations make this clear. In this context, in which white people hold political, economic, cultural, and social power, the racist views and assumptions that course through the U.S. society shape the way those in power interact with people of color. This leads to a serious and well-documented problem of routine discrimination in all areas of life, and the frequent dehumanization and marginalization of people of color, including hate crimes, which serves to alienate them from society and hurt their overall life chances. Examples include discrimination against people of color and preferential treatment of white students among university professors. More frequent and severe punishment of black students in K-12 schools, and the racist police practices, among many others. Ultimately, alienating racist relations make it difficult for people of different races to recognize their commonalities and to achieve solidarity in fighting broader patterns of inequality that affect the vast majority of people in society, regardless of their race. Fegan points out with historical documentation that the cost and burdens of racism are disproportionately borne by people of color and by black people especially. Having to bear these unjust costs and burdens is a core aspect of systemic racism. These include shorter lifespans, limited income and wealth potential, impacted family structure as a result of mass incarceration of blacks and Latinos, limited access to educational resources, and political participation, state-sanctioned killing by police, and the physiological, emotional, and community tolls of living with less and being seen as less than. That's so true.
Yeah.
People of color are also expected by white people to bear the burden of explaining, proving, and fixing racism.
Yeah.
Though it is, in fact, white people who are primarily responsible for perpetuating it. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That whole section right there was deep. You know what I'm saying?
Because even though like if you're talking to friends, they always want to justify something on the basis of just a few people they may know. Like, saying, no one's keeping a person down. Mm-hmm. Okay, we may be doing well. We may even have other friends and family that are doing well. Mm-hmm. But as a whole, black people are pretty much kept in certain areas, and even though things have changed and redlining was deemed illegal, like so much was lost that could have a group could have benefited from, but the fact that just still it's going on. And
it's so funny. I'm gonna tell you guys a quick story. I was hanging out here in wine country, and a buddy of mine, Greg, what up, Greg? I went out with him and some friends and stuff, mm-hmm. and it was an interracial couple. The female was Mexican, Latina, and he was white, mm-hmm. and he was really cool. And we were in my car driving from Old Town to this bar, close to the mall, and we were listening to music. Mm-hmm. And of course, a lot of the rap and hip hop has the word nigga in it, right? Yeah. So we were in the back. They were in the back seat. Greg was in the front. We were all listening to it, mm-hmm. and they were bleeping out the word nigga. They didn't want to say it.
Oh, that's good.
When we got inside the bar,
yeah.
we got into this conversation about race and politics and relationships and all that, and the N word came up. Mm-hmm. So I told her boyfriend, I go, she gets a pass to say it, but you don't. And the girlfriend busted out laughing, and he was like, Why does she get a pass and I don't? I said, because we share similar history.
Yeah.
We were both oppressed by white people, and their friend who was there too, he was like, that means by you, to her boyfriend. It was just so funny. He goes, that means by you. Yeah. So he goes, to your point, mm-hmm. well, I wasn't back then. I wasn't the one that oppressed, you, Imani, and my girlfriend's people. So I said, yeah, but it was your ancestors that did, and you still benefit from that oppression. Yep. So after I said that, he went quiet, and his girl was just sitting there like, and so I told her, I said, Michelle, from now on, mm-hmm. you don't have to bleep it out if you listen to it in the car, but he still does. And it was just a funny moment. He was a cool guy too.
It also reminds me of Chris Rock's joke where he was saying how, him being rich and everything.
Yeah.
And he goes, as rich as I am, there's still, a poor white person in this room who would not want to trade places with me because they'll go, I'll wait this white thing out.
Right.
Right. Exactly. In other words, no matter, even if a person's rich and they're black or, whatever ethnicity that's not white, they can be brought down pretty quick and easy compared to, and another good example is even Epstein. Yeah. The guy who raped all them girls who got the first sweetest deal ever. And if, and we could just say, if it would have been a Mexican or a Latino or a Latino mm-hmm. and or a Hispanic and a black person, oh my God, the book would have, people mm-hmm. would have, I'm sure there have been hundreds of people who would have testified against mm-hmm. him and been like, oh, yeah, no. Or easy. Whoever,
Easy, man. So. And even on Chappelle, when he was on Netflix, he had some joke about that too. Remember, he was like, yeah, I'm rich. I ain't talking about me. I'm talking about he said, I have the same problem. Yeah, it was just fun. I can't remember the exact joke, guys, but if you've seen that Chappelle
well,
Netflix, you know what I'm talking about.
But his joke was when he was drunk and his friend was driving the car.
Yeah,
and he
exactly.
goes, well, at least I know I'll be safe because I'm rich and I'm famous, you know.
Exactly.
And sure enough, the people. Anyway, that was a funny.
But
joke
he had some relating to white people though. It was something he said in relation to white. Maybe it was another one.
I think it was a different one.
Probably was. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, it's the same.
But he has. I mean, he's made comments about it.
Right. He has. Yeah. It's funny. So I'm gonna keep going. While all white people and even many people of color play a part in perpetuating systemic racism, it is important to recognize the powerful role played by white elites in maintaining this system, which is what you see on Ava DuVernay's, documentary 13. She, you see those system of elites, how they have a system of systemic, white elites often unconsciously work to perpetuate systemic racism via politics, law, educational institutions, the economy, and via racist representations and underrepresentations of people of color in mass media. This is also known as white supremacy. For this reason, it is important that the public hold white elites accountable for combating racism and fostering equality. It is equally important that those who hold positions of power within society reflect the racial diversity of the U.S. Racist ideology, the collection of ideas, assumptions, and worldviews, is a key component of systemic racism and plays a key role in its reproduction. Racist ideology often asserts that whites are superior to people of color for biological and cultural reasons and manifests in stereotypes, prejudices, and popular myths and beliefs. These typically include positive images of whiteness in contrast to negative images associated with people of color, such as civility versus brutishness, chaste and pure versus hypersexualized, and intelligent and driven versus stupid and lazy. These are the images that they perpetuate in the media, Well,
just like good guy, bad guy.
Yep.
Good guy wears the white hat. Black guy wears the black. Or bad guy, black guy. Bad guy wears the black hat.
Right. And even though we're not literally black like my shirt, guys, for those who are watching us on YouTube, the word is still associated with people of color. That word black, and so you automatically associate seeing things black with us. It's just how we've been trained since birth in the United States.
In the United States,
yeah.
Through TV shows,
everything. Yeah. Sociologists recognize that ideology informs our actions and interactions with others. So it follows that racist ideology fosters racism throughout all aspects of society. This happens regardless of whether the person acting in racist ways is aware of doing so. Finally, Fegan recognizes that resistance to racism is an important feature of systemic racism. Racism has never been passively accepted by those who suffer it, and is so systemic. Racism is always accompanied by acts of resistance that might manifest as protests, political campaigns, legal battles, resisting white authority figures, and speaking back against racist stereotypes, beliefs, and language. The white backlash that typically follows resistance, like countering Black Lives Matters with All Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter, does the work of limiting the effects of resisting and maintaining a racist system.
It's almost like deflecting. So you're trying to make a point that with the whole Black Lives Matter, it's saying black people are being shot and killed disproportionately more, and it needs to be looked at. But everyone all of a sudden wants to just change the subject. All lives matter.
Yeah, all lives matter.
Okay, well, no one said any other life mattered less.
Right.
But we're also pointing out that Black lives seem to not care, so Black Lives Matter.
Right, we matter too, is what we're trying to say. It seems like you guys act like we didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
Which is why we had to say Black Lives Matter.
Correct.
We shouldn't have had to say that if we didn't feel like we didn't matter.
Yeah.
Fegan's theory and all of the research he and many other social scientists have conducted over 100 years illustrates that racism is in fact built into the foundation of U.S. society, and that it has over time come to infuse all aspects of it. It is present in our laws, our politics, our economy, and our social institutions, and in how we think and act. Whether consciously or subconsciously, it's all around us and inside of us, and for this reason, resistance to racism must also be everywhere if we are to combat it. Yeah. And that was it on that. So what I'd like to do is give you guys some of the statistics that's been a result of everything that you just heard. So for example, did you know that in 2010, Black Americans made up 13% of the population, but had only 2.7% of the country's wealth? That the median net worth for a white family was $134,000, but the median net worth for a Hispanic family was only $14,000, and for a black family was only $11,000. That the median. Did you also know that the median wealth for a single white woman has been measured at $41,000, while for a Hispanic woman it was measured at $140, and for a black woman, it was measured at $120. Did you know that? Did you know that? Do you know what that's called? Systemic racism. And it's a real thing. So let's go down to employment now. Did you know that no matter what else is going on in America, year in and year out for the last 60 years, black unemployment is always about twice as high as white unemployment. And even if you just look at black college graduates, they're still almost twice as likely to be unemployed as white college graduates. And if you just apply for a job with a white-sounding name, you're 50% more likely to get a call back than with a black-sounding name.
I've heard that one.
What would you call it if lifetimes of legal segregation followed by decades of pervasive racism, housing policy still to this day, disadvantage black people in almost every aspect of life? Because where you live can decide everything from how safe you are, to what food you eat, to the quality of your health care, to the quality of your job, to the quality of your children's education.
Exactly.
So let's switch gears a little bit. It's the same thing. You probably know that today's technology lets the government watch what we do and track where we go more than ever before. So much that privacy is almost a thing of the past. But did you know that the government watches some of us a lot more than others, depending on where you come from? That is, recently, as of 2011, the New York PD was exposed for targeting their surveillance specifically at what they call ancestries of interest: Indian, Bangladesh, Pakistani, Guyanese, Egyptian, and Lebanese. Using our tax dollars to spy on these people's everyday lives, just going to the barber shop and the bookstore, and singling them out for this constant invasion of privacy based on nothing but where their ancestors were actually born.
Damn.
That's crazy. Did you know that back in the 80s, there was less than 500,000 people in the U.S. prison system? But now, thanks to war on drugs, there are more than 2 million. That out of every 100,000 Americans, about 700 are incarcerated, but out of 100,000 black men, over 4,000 are incarcerated. And one of many effects of that trend is that combined with felony disenfranchisement laws, it means 13% of black American men are denied their right to vote. You know what I mean? So yeah, those are just some of the statistics I found. I mean, directly as a result of systemic racism.
Yeah.
You know
what's and kind of going back to the whole with Trump and the tweet from a couple of days ago, and there was a couple of Republicans who also, like, Trump saying that they should leave America, that they're not patriotic, or they hate America and stuff like that, which is weird because you think of some of the statements he's made, how people will ask him about the leader of North Korea. Right. Or Russia, and all those different things, and he'll, I like that leader, that they're strong, blah blah blah, but they have a lot of human rights issues there too, and of course there's some racism going in there. I don't even want to hit that, even though it's primarily a particular ethnic group that lives there anyway. Yeah. But the main point I want to say out of it is, if someone were to ask him, or I've watched where they ask him a question of, of whatever country.
Yeah.
And a lot of times he will then point out, well, America's not any better, because we've done, blah, blah, blah. So it's like interesting how even though he's made negative comments about America, and saying that we're no better than these other really bad ones, which most people should be offended, but instead they're like, oh, I guess I see his point, but it's only because it's coming from, you know. But then when you make
politics and power.
But when someone is being critical of America and saying how to make it better, and this is the issues, and coming up with, or attempting to have that debate. Instead, he just wants to then deflect it, or that's always deflection. Oh, you must hate America. Right. You need to leave. So that's kind of my point.
I mean, he's a master con artist, man. He's the master at deflecting and distraction and the whole nine. And I mean, everything he says and does, he panders to his base.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Because I hate to say it, but he has a racist base, most of them. Oh, yeah. They're the ones that got him in office. I'm not saying everybody that's voted for Trump is racist, but I know a lot of his base is racist, and that's what he panders to, and that's the stuff he believes. It's crazy.
And racists are actually happy with the tweet he put out.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, instead of, again, chance for him to go, I, don't agree with them or whatever. Right. Instead, it's like nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then, therefore, it just gets bad.
It's all about power, and it's funny.
All about power.
It's funny. I was watching this thing on Vice News earlier. Mm-hmm. And they actually showed how they have a new subdivision going up in Israel. Mm-hmm. Jared Kushner was doing this speech over in the Middle East somewhere on Israel. They have this subdivision going up in Israel, and it's called Trump Place or something like that. Oh. I swear. And it has the Israeli flag and the American flag. And it's a project that Trump's name is on, that they're building in Israel right now. This subdivision. And they were talking about how people are going to be moving in there in Israel. And I was like, wow.
That's one way to make money off of the government.
and it's illegal for him to do that. But I think, even though it's his name, he has his underlings doing all this stuff for him, even though he'll benefit from once he leaves office. Yeah. So he's doing all this stuff, making all these deals.
I mean, he's also put out laws that would benefit his friends. I've read different articles. Don't have them on me to point them out, but where where someone wanted to have. There's a gentleman who's a big coal tycoon, has coal is his big thing. He pretty much wrote up what he wanted to have, passed it along, and then pretty much they just give it to their actual government officials, change a couple words, and then present it as if it's something that would just benefit everyone. But no, it's really only benefiting a few. So that's another example of how being in power and just white men helping other white men, and it's just, especially it's not just how even though you can make economic gains by dealing with someone in politics, you can then get laws or just regulations put in place that benefit mainly yourself.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people at home are and listening, wherever you are, going, well, what about Jay-Z? What about Oprah? What about so-and-so? Okay, and what I got to say to that is, trust me, if there were 100 Jay-Z's, we'd have a problem. And I don't know if you guys know it, but Akon was doing a lot of great things in Africa and stuff. And, he brought solar power and computers and that and the other. And he was doing, and he was actually going to get into oil. And you guys could search up the interview. And he said stuff started getting real strange when he was going to buy and get into oil. Really? And the oil wells. The big oil companies, they shut him down. Wow. You can search up the interview. Akon said, it got real iffy, and him and his people backed off. Wow. I mean, it was literally like, life-threatening.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wow.
Yeah. So it just goes to show what we were saying about systemic racism. The powers that be made sure that this brother couldn't be in place to control the oil and fuel that was coming in this part of Africa. They didn't want him to have no control over that.
Because that's a lot of power.
Yeah.
And you can
see
become
very
rich very quickly.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
So,
yeah,
so they'll allow a few here and there.
But it won't just happen. And it's not going to,
it won't be a lot. And if you are, whether you're a millionaire, 100 millionaire, or billionaire, as long as you're not doing major things in a systemic way that benefits people of color, they're gonna leave you alone anyway.
Yeah.
So even if we had 10 Jay-Z's, as long as they're not doing anything to systemically benefit people of color, they gonna say, oh, y'all go ahead and keep those buildings, keep buying your Rolls Royce rates, and your gold and this, that, and the other.
Get your chains.
As long as you don't do nothing
that's really benefiting your
that's what people don't realize.
Your group, ethnic group.
Exactly. That's what people don't realize. Because one Jay-Z and Oprah, I mean, she's doing a lot, but that's okay if they affect 20, 25 people each.
And I mean,
but 1,000 Jay-Z's affecting hundreds of thousands of us, oh, you best believe there will be a problem in America.
Yeah.
So that they'll never allow happen. You'll never see that happen. And I'm only saying that for all those people who go, well, they allow so-and-so. Anybody? No, they don't.
Yeah.
Go back and listen to this episode 3 times, and you'll hear how they systemically keep people of color down.
But also, you have an Oprah, you have a Jay-Z, you have someone, these, but like you're saying, it's a few. But also we don't have Rockefellers. We don't have
That's what I'm saying.
people who had old money that can't. It's still coming. It's still
all the white power structures. Not at all.
None.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are the Will Smiths doing to affect positive change in a major way? Like hundreds of thousands of people of color be affected. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
They will not allow that to happen.
Correct.
We'd have to go and get our own country to allow something like that to happen.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
And even then, you're still competing with the outside forces that
like what happened with Akon.
Yeah.
Like what happened with Akon.
So
it's interesting, guys. But I'm gonna move into this day in history. It's July 17th, and I got some historical facts for you guys for today, like we do every week. So today in history, July 17th, I found some pretty interesting ones. I'm going to read off 4 of them, like I like to do. So in 1821, Spain ceded Florida to the U.S. in July 17th, which is interesting. Another one is the Muslims were crushed in the Spain Crusade in 1212.
1212?
Yep, on July 17th.
Okay.
Another one is, and our shooter director here, Sione, he's from France, so this one's for Sione. In 1453, France defeated England at Castalian, France, which ended the 100 Years' War.
Okay.
In July 1453. And then I'll do another one talking about trying to limit people and this and that and goods. In 1785, France limited the importation of goods from Britain, July 17th.
Okay.
That happened that day. I guess France was tired of Britain getting benefit from everything. They want to do their own thing and, benefit their own country and people. So, yeah, those are 4 good ones. And, and that's it, guys.
So I hope we Imani's thing for her presentation, really help understand systemic racism for everyone. So,
thanks for checking in. Once again, it's the HPR Chronicles with Shakur and Smith. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Click like if you like us. Go to ISCT Group Digital if you want to subscribe on YouTube to watch us. And once again, thank you to all the other platforms. Appreciate the love. Keep listening. Keep watching. And we will see you guys next time. Week. I think we're good next week. Yep. All right. Peace.